Hello and welcome to another edition of Malicious Compliance. I found 5 funny stories of people following instructions so meticulously because they were really irritated. You know what? Actually, let's add another 5 stories to that. I'm feeling a little frisky today, and if you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more, please hit that subscribe button. So with that being said, let's get started. Story number 1. Yes, I'll pick you up. This story is not of me, but it's of my dad. He used to do a lot of things like this. We lived in a rural area, and the nearest grocery store was about 5 miles down a mountain. My uncle lived next door and he didn't have a car, so he would ask my dad for a ride. My dad would almost always give him a ride wherever he needed to go. He would not let my uncle borrow the car though, because once my uncle wrecked his mom's car, and he told her that it looks like she needs a new one. But he refused to pay for it, and also due to the fact of his incredible sense of entitlement. One day my uncle comes over, and the conversation goes like this.
Can you give me a ride to the store?
You just want to ride to the store? You want to go anywhere else?
No, just Acme.
So they go to Acme, and my dad comes back a short while later by himself. My mom asks where her brother is. My dad responds that he said he wanted a ride to the store, and said nothing about a ride home. He said he asked him if he wanted to go anywhere else but the store, and he said no, so he left him there. My uncle, not wanting to walk 5 miles up a hill with all of his groceries, calls my dad from a payphone.
Haha, that's funny. I'm sick of your dang jokes. Come pick me up now, or I'm gonna beat your face in.
So, my dad is not one that likes to be threatening that way. So he drives to the store, finds his brother-in-law, literally lifts him off the ground, picked him up just like he said to do, gets in his car and leaves him behind again. My mom asked again where her brother was. I'm just following orders. My mom made him go and give him a ride home. Story number 2. Don't call me at this hour. I work as an emergency dispatcher and a 911 operator. I got a call about a pickup truck parked in front of a tire store, loading tires in the back. The deputies responded and found that, yes, a theft had obviously occurred, and they asked me to call the owner to see if he wanted to come in and file a report. The owner was obviously annoyed with the 1:30 call in the morning, as people tend to be, but once I explain the circumstances, they tend to react appreciatively. But as I begin, this is county communications. We have deputies at your... He snarled, "You don't call me at this time in the dang morning!" And he hung up. Well, he obviously didn't care that much then, did he? I shrugged. I radioed the deputies. I made contact with the owner, and he advised that we do not call him this time in the morning. Did you go ahead and add that to the notes?
10-4, I did. Show us clear then.
A few days later, my supervisor told me the owner, after filing a report the next day for the stolen tires, complained that we should have contacted him when it happened. The complaint went down to my supervisor, who kicked the notes in the recording of the 45-second phone call back up the chain. The owner was basically told where he could shove his complaint. Story number 3. The doctor will probably not see you now. My cell phone number is the same number as the medical clinic, except for my area code. My area code is 805, and the clinic's number starts with an 800, which is a toll-free number. It's easy to miss, so occasionally I get calls from people trying to call the medical clinic. After a few times, I figured out the problem. I could just tell them, "Oh, you have the wrong number. You need 1-800 so-and-so." And that almost always worked. Except one time. I got a call for the clinic. I told them that they had the wrong number. They apologized and hung up. They called again moments later. I answered, "Sorry, still me. You need to dial the 800 first." This is where things went off the rail. The caller insisted that they dialed correctly. Then I told them, "I don't know what to say to you, but I'm not the clinic." So I just hung up. They called back again. This time they said, "I demand that you give me the appointment to the doctor now." So I did, which is supposed to be for that afternoon. Good luck seeing the doctor. Story number 4. I don't care. I'm the breadwinner, so I'm also the bill payer and the setter of passwords. I reset all the passwords and made a key so that my husband would have everything laid out for him. Being the considerate spouse I am, I attempted to include him in the process.
I'm resetting the Wi-Fi password. What would be easy for you to remember?
he just continues being disinterested.
I don't care.
So I changed the password to I don't care. I look forward to the conversation when he says,
I can't remember the Wi-Fi password.
and my response will be, I don't care. Story number 5. Pull up your socks. This happened about 5 years ago when I was in high school. My school had strict uniform rules. Shirt tucked in, socks pulled up, with garter belts, which were little elastic bands that kept your socks up. They were mandatory. The rules were so specific and pointless that 80% of the teachers didn't enforce them. Then we had the small pool of 5 or so teachers that hassled you about your uniform. I was constantly getting detention for my shirt being untucked, so most of the teachers knew me by name. As I was leaving school one day, a particularly strict dean noticed my socks were down and shouted,
Pull your socks up. They should be 4 fingers below your knee.
So I approached him to comply with his request. He expected me to have a single hand with 4 fingers extended right below my knee, then pull my socks up to them. Instead, I used both hands, end to end. So I measured 4 index fingers lengths down from my knee. This resulted in me actually lowering my socks until they were just above my ankles.
4 fingers below my knee.
Number 6. Don't you put your filthy hands on my table. No problem. Years ago, between acting gigs, I used to load furniture and do warehouse work. It was a great way to keep fit, and I made some amazing friends. One of the specialty items we had to load was a tempered glass coffee table. It was very heavy, and it needed at least 3 people to safely lift it. So this snooty lady comes into the warehouse, waving her receipt and proclaiming that she purchased 3 of those tables. She also stated with a smug superiority that she refuses to pay for delivery for it's a scam, and demands that us, warehouse workers, better help her load her goods into her car. We wait as she backs her incredibly small car into the warehouse loading dock, and it's immediately apparent there is no way that 1 table will fit in there, let alone 3. But hey, boss lady wants her tables loaded, so we begin to load them. We get one end into the car, and she rushes out of the driver's side and shrieks,
I don't want your filthy hands touching the table. What are you, freaking retards?
I shoot a look to my offsider and motion for her to take over. She grabs the end where we are holding, only to realize how incredibly heavy they are. As she slowly loses the battle with gravity, she starts shrieking again.
What the heck are you doing? Help me!
We all stand there, arms crossed. Sorry, miss, but you don't want our dirty hands to touch your precious table. She finally gives in, lets go of the glass table, and it goes crashing to the ground and shatters. She lets out a stream of slurs and runs back into the store to complain. She comes running back in with the manager, who also has her paperwork. The manager demands to know what happened. In a twist of unexpected malicious compliance, I helpfully pointed out the terms and conditions, where the warehouse staff aren't responsible for loading up customer pickups, as the company doesn't cover products and warehouse workers under their insurance. Number 7. In the bag, out the window. My friend was working at a drive-thru window. They were at the second window, where people would usually receive their food after purchasing. Well, at this fast food restaurant, the management were being very picky about reducing the drive-thru time that day. Their method was to bag the order, then hold the bag out the window. This way that the customer could grab their order and drive off, thus reducing the time. At one point in the day, a customer pulled up and ordered a small fry, nothing more. As the customer was pulling around to pay at the first window, the manager tells my friend,
Hurry up, put it in the bag and out the window.
For those of you who are fortunate enough to never work drive-thru, the fry machine is generally located by the second window. It would only take a few seconds to prep the order and have it ready to hand out. Another note of the situation is my friend is wearing a headset, so he could hear his coworker at the first window starting the transaction. My friend knows that he has plenty of time to make the order, but alas, his manager doesn't care.
And the bag out the window,
the manager repeats. My friend proceeds to obey the manager's instructions. He casually makes the small fry, puts it in a bag, opens the window and hurls the bag into the parking lot. The customer is still at the first window at this point. Needless to say, my friend didn't mind cleaning up the whole parking lot later that day. Number 8. Don't take tiny bites. My family was having quesadillas for dinner tonight, and my 10-year-old brother loves them. However, he always does this thing where he picks off tiny bits of his food and eats that, rather than taking bites of food. My parents hate this, understandably, and they tell him to stop. We go on with our delicious and culturally diverse meal when my father catches my brother picking off a piece of his food again.
How many times did I tell you to stop picking your food? That was just a little piece hanging off.
I don't care. We told you not to pick your food.
But it was a little bit hanging off.
For the third time. This was actually the second time. We don't care if it's hanging off. We told you to stop picking your food. Attitude from my brother kicks in. He puts his head in his hand and his elbows on the table, clearly frustrated. Fine, then just don't eat. He gets his quesadillas taken away. Fast forward about 5 minutes, and my father allows my brother to eat the quesadillas again. Now, in retaliation for the hideous and malicious punishment that is the confiscation of his quesadillas, my brother takes extremely small bites of his food. Then my mom says,
"Stop taking small bites." "Yes, Mom."
Then he shoves 3 whole quesadilla slices into his mouth. Each one is a quarter of an 8-inch tortilla.
"You spit that out right now."
It was probably affirmation from the previous command. Then my brother hurls out the whole load of food onto his plate. It was disgusting. Needless to say, my 2 brothers, my father and I were laughing our butts off, while my mother was fuming. Now, my parents aren't buttholes, they're just trying to teach him good manners, that's all. Number 9. Don't hang up the phone like that. This is a funny one. I'm working on a new habit at work as of recently, and that's slamming the phone down when I end a call. See, I got into the habit of just pushing the button to disconnect the call before actually hanging up the phone. I think it's because on some days, I have to make several, like 20 to 30 calls. When I do those, I don't even put the phone down between calls. Anyway, my boss noticed that I just pushed the button to end the calls, rather than hanging up the phone. Maybe it is a weird habit on my part, I don't know. It feels kind of ridiculous that she even mentioned it. It was along this lines of what she said.
"Oh my God, really? Why do you hang it up like that? Stop that."
So now, when I hang up the phone, at least when she's around, I make sure the person on the other end feels it. Number 10. You're not allowed to sell Dr. Pepper here. Cool, I won't. This happened a few years ago back in college, but it's about time that I can share it without sharing too much information. I was part of an honorary service club back in college. Each year there was a large convention that was hosted by a university within our district. Several states within a region of the U.S. and chapters from other schools would come together and they would talk about more service. But it's also a huge fundraising opportunity because there would be hundreds of other college students attending that we could sell to. Our fraternity was well known for selling original Dublin Dr. Pepper, and we would bring it every year. Now, one year, about midway through the first day of selling, we had some representative from the host school approach our booth, and he tried to shut us down. We were told, "This school has a contract with Pepsi, which forbids selling non-Pepsi beverages on site. You have to take this Dr. Pepper away." The host school had not warned anyone about this issue. The fundraising was a huge part of the event, and they never once listed any restrictions of what could or could not be sold. So we were just stuck with hundreds of dollars of product, and we couldn't do anything with it. But we did have someone with a relevant major. Our local political scientist noticed the word selling and not distributing. Shortly after we were told to take away the Dr. Pepper, we had changed all the signs to read, "Red Solo Cups for sale, complimentary Dr. Pepper included." We sold out of red Solo Cups that weekend. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Malicious Compliance. What about you? Do you have any stories of malicious compliance? If it's small enough, you can share it down in the comments or you can send it to me and I'll read it later on. If you like these stories, please give me a thumbs up. And also, if you're not subscribed, I hope you do. So until next time, if you don't want to do it and you have to do it, make it worth it.